Summer was a heck of a ride. Unlimited potential, followed by unlimited harvests. And while some gardeners are crazy enough to keep growing right through to next year, that's not always possible. Nor is it always the best choice. Giving our growing spaces a breather to rest, recharge, and revitalize themselves is never a bad thing. And late fall is the perfect time to do it. Get out of here. I've compiled 7 things that you can do to prepare your garden for the coming winter so that you can hit the ground running next spring. If summer was peak performance, then fall-winter is the recovery period. And when you think about it, it's not unique to our gardens. Even nature takes a break and sends the bulk of its growth back to the soil for protection and sustenance. After all the work that we've done this year, and with the weather being usually terrible at this time of year, the tendency is just to leave everything as is and deal with it later. After all, there's a complete lack of that instant gratification that we get from sprouting those first seeds and mapping out our new crop locations. You know, the fun stuff of spring. I get that. I'm right there with you. But even if you're not growing stuff in the fall or winter, there's things you can do in the garden to make your life much easier for the coming spring. There's a few garden maintenance tasks that are obvious and pretty universal this time of year. Things such as cleaning all your tools or bleeding any of the exposed water lines to prevent freezing and cracking. But today, I'm going to focus on the soil and the garden itself. And with that, we get into it. The first thing that we do for fall-winter garden preparation is one last round of harvests. Don't let those last few nuggets from warmer days go to waste. Hard frosts are going to decimate your warm weather crops and their fruit. So try harvesting before that happens. It all feels like endless bounty until it doesn't. So try to grab as much of it as you can while it's still here. And if you find at the end of the season that you got too much all at once, try your hand at preserving it for later. You know, when we're not so fortunate. The second thing that I do in my fall garden is to clean up and compost all the old plants. Spent, rotting, and decomposing plants and fruit can harbor pests or disease. And for summer plants where we know they're not coming back, such as these peppers here, get them into the compost where they can do some good. Let them break down and work their magic in your compost now, returning some of those nutrients. And in the process, save yourself the headache of having to deal with something like this in the spring. And one more note on that fallen fruit that could be lying around your garden. Remember, it can go to seed, giving you unwanted volunteers in the spring. More work for no reason. Fall is also a perfect time of the year to weed. It really is that one time of year in your garden where it feels like you can weed an area and it actually stays clean. Weeds are often easier to pull up at this time of year, and getting them before they really get established saves a ton of future work. For perennial crops that we look forward to year after year, fall is often the perfect time to prune them. A lot of our berry bushes and trees can be cleaned up at this time. For some, like this grapevine here, I do wait for spring. But others, like blackberries and strawberries, now is the perfect time to clean them up and get everything set for their winter dormancy. Having said that, getting crops like your strawberries prepped and ready for winter is an entire video unto itself. Thankfully, I've got one right there for you to check out. And while it may seem counterintuitive, fall can also be a great time of year to amend your soils. Many of our amazing slow release agents, such as compost, rock dust, alfalfa and canola meals, and even seaweed, will have the benefit of the extra time to break down, incorporating into the soil, being ready for those spring crops right away. Now, definitely don't be outright fertilizing your dormant beds this time of year. The nutrients are just going to be washed away over winter and wasted for the spring. Slow release soil amending now could line up perfectly for when your first crops begin to sprout up. Also, if you're amending to correct a pH issue, such as sulfur for alkaline soils or lime for acidic ones, fall is a great time to slowly amend your garden, allowing it the time to correct and adjust that pH closer to neutral. And in conjunction with amending our soils, we should definitely be mulching as well. Before I go on my usual rant about mulching and protecting our soils, because I will, let's take a little trip and look at what nature does. It's no coincidence that the great crops of the world, our forests, shed much of their foliage in the fall. They don't do this to be messy and annoying. They do this for two reasons. One is to return valuable unused nutrients back to the soil cycle. And two, more importantly, to protect that soil, to insulate it, to mitigate the perpetual precipitation pelting its surface. It's this protection that keeps the upper layers of the soil functioning at a high level, even during the most extreme times. Same thing with your garden. That soil is like a living organism. If it's exposed to the brutality of winter, it's going to struggle. You'll lose worms, microorganisms, and other beneficial soil life that elevates your soil from average to great. Mulch anywhere from 2 to 6 inches thick with straw, leaves, grass clippings, or combinations. Really, any organic matter is going to do. Cover that exposed soil with something, anything, and it's going to be beneficial. Even here, I'm just cutting down these old corn stalks and leaving them right in place. A free organic soil cover that I can easily remove after winter and then plant away in the spring. Whatever you have, something will be better than nothing. And finally, we elevate that theory of mulch and take it one step further with living mulches. That's right, I'm talking cover crops. Where mulches protect the soil, prevent excess water damage, help with nutrient retention, and preserve the soil web of life, cover crops do that times 10. A living protective shield over our soils that binds together the top layers to stop erosion, prevent weeds, and decrease compaction. The best cover crops are fast-growing, cold-tolerant plants that are mass-seeded in the fall and cut down the following spring. It's an easy process, even for the beginner gardener. Check out my extensive video on cover crops that goes over everything, start to finish, right here. Winter is a time to recharge your mind, your body, and your garden. Mind you, the weather may not be fun to work in, and the work itself may not be as glamorous as spring. But what you do now can really set up your success for when winter is over and the next batch of crops starts. Hopefully next spring, after doing some or all of these things, you'll see what I mean. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.